So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. With the idea that you get to cover your current affairs on a daily basis, but you don't have to spend that much time on covering current affairs. So, we will cover the day's current affairs within 30 minutes. Now, just watching this lecture in 30 minutes would be job half done. Why? Well, you have to revise it after watching it because revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram platform. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section just below this video. Okay, then, let's begin today's session. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So here's the list. In total, we'll be covering these 5 topics. Okay. Now, number 1 in this list is Trump, Syria, and Middle East. As you all know, that Donald Trump was visiting Saudi Arabia, Qatar. Okay. And it was a spectacular tour. He made a lot of deals with Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Plus, he also announced that he is going to lift sanctions from Syria. Okay. With the mediation of Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar, Trump decided to lift sanctions from Russia. So, what is this relationship between Trump, Syria, and the Middle East, and why did Trump do so? We'll talk about this. It is related to international relations, so you need to keep a key eye on that also. Okay. Next is Jain-Santhal conflict for Jarkand Hills. Now, look, there is a particular place in Jharkhand, set of hills, which are sacred to Jains as well as the Santhal tribals. And they are embroiled in a conflict right now. So what is this conflict? We'll talk about this and also the hills also. Now 16th May marks 50 years of Sikkim's integration into India. Now we need to go back to the history of Sikkim's integration into India because it has marked, this year 2025 marks 50 years. So that is why Sikkim's integration into India becomes important. So we'll discuss this. Then a recent study came out which basically revealed that Shingles Vaccine can also lower the risk of dementia, a degenerative neurodegenerative disease. It hampers your brain. So what is Shingles disease? How does it lower dementia? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about a strategic project, okay, strategic transport project from the perspective of bypassing Bangladesh, okay, which is Northeast Link from Kolkata. It is a very strategic project because recent Bangladesh regime is not friendly to New Delhi. So we need this project, okay? So we'll talk about this. So these are the 5 topics we'll focus our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with Trump, Syria, and Middle East. So as you all know, we discussed this, that United States President Donald Trump wrapped up his tour of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE. Okay. And when he was speaking in Riyadh, capital of Saudi Arabia, he announced that he will finish all sanctions, economic sanctions on Syria so that Syria can develop. Okay. And this announcement also was followed by Trump meeting the president of Syria, the current de facto president of Syria, Ahmad al-Shara. Now the thing is, up till recently, Ahmad al-Shara was not liked by US. In fact, US had put a bounty on his head that whoever will kill Ahmad al-Shara, well, USA will reward them. And the reason for that was that Ahmad al-Shara was a member of Al-Qaeda. He was branded as a terrorist by USA. So what changed? Yes, Ahmad al-Shara basically became the president of Syria, okay, after deposing Bashar al-Assad, the previous president of Syria. But still, he belonged to Al-Qaeda. So what changed? Why is America recognizing Ahmad al-Shara and removing sanctions? Okay, let's talk about this. Now, first of all, you need to know about Ahmad al-Shara. Here's the guy, Ahmad al-Shara, okay? So in 2017, US had put a bounty on the head of al-Shara, who was described as a senior leader of Al-Nusra Front, which was part of Al-Qaeda. Now, this bounty was lifted on December 20th last year. So USA removed this bounty on him, okay, on al-Shara, as soon as al-Shara basically defeated President of Syria Bashar al-Assad and took control and became the president himself. Okay, now USA is making overtures to Al-Shara, is becoming friendlier towards Al-Shara. Okay, Al-Shara's transitional administration, after removing Bashar al-Assad, the administration by Al-Shara has moderated its position, and that is the reason why USA is warming up to him. Now, the thing is that USA is warming up to him, but it's not just USA. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and Turkey, they all have played a key role in basically this rapprochement between USA and Syria. Okay. Now, the thing is that USA basically removed sanctions from Syria so that Syria can participate in the global economic order and, well, develop. Okay. Now, you need to have some background of those sanctions also. Okay. Now, US sanctions on Syria have been in place for 46 years. And the reason for these sanctions was the Assad family that was ruling Syria. Okay. These sanctions were put in place in 1979 because the Assad family or the Assad dynasty that controlled Syria, well, they were supporting terror groups or resistance groups which were anti-Israel in nature. Okay, so Syria's support to Palestinian and Lebanese anti-Israel armed groups basically made US sanction Assad, his family, his regime, and the entire country of Syria. Now, after 2011, when there were allegations on Bashar al Assad that he was bombing his own people, he used chemical weapons on his own people. Because of these human rights violations, these sanctions became even tougher. Okay, these economic sanctions, including on Syrian petrol, Syria basically produces a lot of crude oil, and it could have sold those that crude oil. Okay, but because of American sanctions, it couldn't sell this crude oil in the international market. So these economic sanctions basically crippled Syria. Okay, but Trump has declared that he will be taking all of them. Okay, all these sanctions off. Now, what is the reason behind that? First of all, the reason is that, well, USA considered Assad to be its enemy. And because Assad was also closer to Russia and Iran. So for USA, Assad was problem. He was the president of Syria. But as soon as this guy defeated Assad and removed Assad and became the president himself, and he seemed to be friendlier to Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, who are allies of America. Because of this, because of Assad's exit, there is no point in putting Syria under sanctions. Okay. Then, well, Qatar, Turkey, Saudi have committed funds to redevelop Syria, the war torn Syria. Now, for that, sanctions had to be lifted. And Qatar, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia are American allies. So, well, America said we'll remove these sanctions. Plus, America does not want to interfere in Middle East anymore. America wants Middle East to be peaceful, but that peace process should be originated, or should be basically, this peace process should be well, owned by the regional players, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey. Okay, America wants to withdraw. The peace process should be owned by the regional players so that America can withdraw its troops from Syria and Iraq, which was Donald Trump's poll promise. Okay, so these are the reasons for that. Though the story is a little more complicated than what I've just explained, but the thing is that we don't need to get too much deep into this story. Okay, we only need to know the things that are important from our exams, from the perspective of our exams. Okay, so that is why I'm stopping at this. Clear? Now let's shift our focus to Jain-Santhal conflict for Jarkand Hills. Now look, there is a particular set of hills which the Jains called Parsanath Hills and the Santhals called, well, Morang. Okay, Santhals basically call it Marang Baru. Okay, now these hills are considered sacred by both Jains and Santhals, both of them. And both of them are basically involved in a legal conflict with respect to the usage of these hills. Okay, so therefore you need to know a little bit of background as far as these hills are concerned in Jharkhand. Plus, You also need to know why they are considered sacred by both communities, and you also need to know why both communities are fighting. Okay, so as far as the sacred status of these hills is concerned, well, as you know, the Jains, the religion of Jains, they believe that they have 24 Tirthankars, divine teachers, okay, who have attained nirvana. Now, out of these 20 Tirthankars, out of these 24 Tirthankars, 20 of them attained nirvana on Parsnath Hills. Okay. Now, the Parsanath, the name itself is derived from the 23rd Tirthankar just before Lord Mahavira, Parshavnath. Okay. So, these hills are considered sacred because Jains believe that 20 of their 24 divine teachers, Tirthankars, well, attained enlightenment on these hills. Okay. Today, there are more than 40 Jain temples and dhams, religious pilgrimage sites over here. Okay. But for Santhals, the tribal Santhals, these hills are known as Marang Baru, the sacred, the great mountain. Okay, and it is the supreme deity. The mountains itself are considered a deity. In fact, there is a place on these mountains called Jug Jahir Than, which is basically very sacred for Santhals. It is like Mecca for Muslims. Okay, so these are the sacred credentials of these hills. Now, what is the conflict? Okay, the thing is that every year Santhal celebrate a festival called Sendra Festival. In this festival, it is a 3-day long festival. All male members of Santhal community go out in the forest to hunt. Okay, and then they hunt. Whatever they bring back from the hunt, they feast. Okay, all these things happen. The thing is that Jains follow a strict vegetarian diet. For them, consuming meat and liquor on this festival, on these sacred hills, is basically blasphemous for them. Okay, basically. Clear? So, well, Jains have filed a suit to ban this hunting festival way back during the British times. They filed a case in the district court, okay, in 1917. They lost. Then they appealed in Patna High Court in 1917. They lost there again. Plus, the case went to Privy Council, the highest court of appeal. Okay, and there too, the Privy Council said that Santhals have a customary right to hunt. Okay, so basically, this process went on. Now, the thing is that as soon as India got independence, okay, well, in our constitution, there are Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. So, some areas in India which belong to central India are deemed as tribal areas. They are put in Schedule 5. Okay, so the tribals residing in those areas have certain rights, and those rights are protected as per the constitution. Schedule 6 basically involves tribal areas of northeastern India. Okay, so this entire region went into Schedule 5. So, Santhal's rights were protected. But after the enactment of Wildlife Protection Act, these Marang Baru Hills or these Parsanath Hills, they were declared a wildlife sanctuary. And as soon as they were declared a wildlife sanctuary, well, their status under Schedule 5 got lost, and the rights, the tribal rights of Santhals in this area, well, those also reduced. So since then, this conflict has become hot again. The Jains have filed many cases in the courts saying that this festival should be banned, whereas Santhal say that, well, they have the right to tribal autonomy, okay, and they should be allowed to practice their festivals, at especially their most sacred festival. Clear? So this is the issue. Okay, now let's move on to third news item, which is 50 years of Sikkim integration. You need to know this, that Sikkim was not part of India, but it became part of India. It joined India on May 16th, 1975. So today, on May 16, 2025, it marks the 50th anniversary of Sikkim's integration, and that is why 16th May is celebrated as Sikkim Day. Now, on its 50th anniversary, PM Modi, well, extended his greetings to the people of Sikkim on Twitter or X. Now, to understand this, you need to know a bit of history as far as Sikkim is concerned. So first let's talk about Kingdom of Sikkim. Okay, Kingdom of Sikkim. So the Kingdom of Sikkim was established in 1642 when three Tibetan lamas consecrated Phuntsong Namgyal as the first ruler, or Chogyal. Okay, in Sikkim's local language, Chogyal means the ruler. So these three Tibetan lamas basically consecrated this Namgyal, Phuntsong Namgyal, as the Chogyal of Sikkim. And that established the Namgyal dynasty in Sikkim, which continued for more than 300 years until 1975. Okay, when Sikkim merged into India. Now, when the British colonized India, they also saw Sikkim. So they basically cut a deal with Sikkim as per the Treaty of Tumlong in 1861. A formal protectorate was established over Sikkim through Treaty of Tumlong. Under that, the British had control over it, basically their external affairs and many other things, but internal autonomy was given to Chogyal. Basically, the British did not want to completely annex Sikkim. They just wanted to have some control over it, giving the internal affairs to the Chogyal. The British saw Sikkim as a buffer state between China and Nepal. Okay, against China and Nepal as a buffer state. Now, this went on, but then India got independence. Then what was the relationship between independent India and the Kingdom of Sikkim? Okay, first of all, you need to know the boundaries of Sikkim along with Tibet were decided as per Calcutta Convention on 1819. All right. Now, after India's independence, all the princely states had the option of either joining India or Pakistan. Okay, to join India or Pakistan, they had to sign the Instrument of Accession. Now, the thing is that the Chogyal of Sikkim did not sign Instrument of Accession. Okay, but the people of Sikkim wanted to integrate with India. They wanted to join with India right from 1947. Look, Sikkim consisted of three major communities: Bhutias, Lepchas, and Nepalis, and they all had their own political parties. These communities passed a resolution, their political parties passed a resolution in December 1947 demanding a popular government, that means elections, and the abolition of landlordism and accession to India. Now, this movement was so popular that the Chogyal of Sikkim had to call India and broker peace. And in 1950, Indo-Sikkim Treaty was signed, making Sikkim an Indian protectorate. So it was not completely Indian territory, but under the protection of India. By that, the meaning was that India would control the defense, external affairs, and strategic communications of Sikkim. Okay, India also secured exclusive right to build infrastructure, and Sikkim people, when they have to travel abroad, they will use Indian passports. So partial integration was done, but still Chogyal was the ruler. Then what happened? Well, anti-monarchy, anti-Chogyal protests by these three communities and their political parties grew in Sikkim in 1973, following which the royal palace was surrounded by thousands of protesters. The Chogyal had to call India. Finally, a tripartite agreement between Chogyal, India, and three major political parties was signed, in which further political reforms and elections were promised. Elections were held in 1974. Sikkim Congress won. Sikkim Congress called for a referendum in Sikkim in 1975. In that referendum, the majority people said they want to abolish monarchy, finish Chogyal rule, and merge with India. That happened. Monarchy was abolished. So the Chogyal rule, the Namgyal dynasty, ended after more than 300 years, and they started the process of joining India. To join with India, 36th Constitutional Amendment Act had to be passed by Parliament and assented by President to recognize Sikkim as the State of Union of India. And all of this happened on May 16th, 1975. That is why May 16th is celebrated as Sikkim Day. Alright, that would be all. Now let's move on to fourth news item, which is Shingles Vaccine and lower dementia risk. So what is the news? The shingles vaccine may do more than protect against viral infection. Those who are vaccinated with shingles vaccine, they have 23% lower risk of developing cardiovascular disease. Plus, as per a recent study, they have a lower risk of developing dementia also. So people who have gotten this vaccine, shingles vaccine, they are not only protected from shingles disease, they also have lower chances of cardiovascular diseases and dementia. Now, cardiovascular diseases we all understand, high BP, heart attack, and all that. What is dementia? Well, it is a neurodegenerative disease. That means your brain starts to malfunction with age. That causes decline in cognitive abilities, ability to think, memory, behavior, everything. Okay, so studies have found out that shingles vaccine can basically delay the onset of dementia also. Question is, what is this shingles disease for which there is this vaccine? Okay, so shingles is a viral infection that causes painful rashes, as you can see over here. It is caused by varicella zoster virus. This virus also causes chickenpox. So the chickenpox virus, basically, or a variant of that, causes shingles. Now, generally, what happens is that after someone has gotten chickenpox, the virus remains dormant in one's nerve cell, okay, for very long periods of time. And this virus reactivates itself as soon as a person's immune system breaks down or it becomes weak. Then shingles occur. Or if you don't have chickenpox, then you can still contact shingles if you come in contact with the fluids from these shingles, fluids, the pus that releases from these shingle rashes, or you breathe in virus particles floating in the air. Okay, so if you come in contact with a person who has this shingles disease, then too you have high chances of developing shingles. Now, what are the symptoms? While shingles can occur anywhere, that means the rashes, it typically looks like a single strip of blisters that wrap around the left or right side of torso, as you can see, left or right side. Okay. Pain can persist even after rashes go away. In severe cases, the rashes cause vision loss if they are close to the eye, facial paralysis, inflammation. So it's a dangerous disease. Now, to protect against this disease, you have shingles vaccine. The shingles vaccine, which prevents the reactivation of varicella zoster virus, is recommended primarily to individuals over 50 age, over 50 years or above. Okay, but it can be recommended to adults who are less than 50 years of age if they have a weakened immune system like HIV. Clear? That would be all as far as shingles is concerned. And now let's move on to last topic of the day, which is Northeast link from Kolkata. Now look, as you can see on this map, okay, now India's northeast is huge, okay, but Indian mainland's connection with northeast is through this narrow corridor which is known as the Siliguri corridor. Okay, and this narrow corridor is so narrow that it is also known as chicken's neck, because like a chicken's neck it is narrow. Now, this creates strategic vulnerability for India. Why? If India's enemies just capture this narrow territory, they can block India's access to Northeast. Therefore, India needs access to Northeast apart from this chicken's neck. So now, when Bangladesh was ruled by a friendly regime, okay, Sheikh Hasina's regime, India had many projects, transit projects, which would give India access to Northeast through Bangladesh. But now, as you all know, Bangladesh has been threatening India. It is not so friendly towards India. And it has even been threatening India to capture, like they have threatened that we will capture Northeast also and we will cut off Northeast from you. Right? So, India needs alternative routes to basically Northeast. Now, many years back, India had launched a project called Kaladan Multimodal Transit Project. Under this project, well, Kolkata and Sitwe port in Myanmar would be connected through sea. Then from Sitwe to Zoripuri, Kaladan river flows. Okay, so through boats you will be connected to Zoripuri. From Zoripuri to Aizawl, it will be connected through highways. And from Shillong in Meghalaya, government is constructing a project where 4-lane, 6-lane highways would be constructed. So India can access northeast through Kolkata. Okay, so we can access northeast through Kolkata, bypassing Bangladesh altogether. This gives us strategic advantage over Bangladesh. Okay, makes sense, right? And it also reduces our vulnerability of this chicken's neck. This is what we call strategic link to Kaladan multimodal transit project. The reason why it is called multimodal, because it involves sea, river transport, road transport, everything. Clear? Makes sense? So about this project. So the proposed high-speed corridor shall connect Silchar, Assam with Shillong, Meghalaya. So Shillong, Meghalaya will be connected to Silchar. Then another highway will be built which will connect Silchar to Aizawl, Mizoram. And Aizawl, Mizoram will be connected to, well, Myanmar. Okay. This is part of India's Act East policy. It would increase connectivity and trade with Myanmar. And it would also connect Northeast India with Southeast Asia. Clear? About Kaladan Multimodal Transit Project. So it is a joint initiative between India and Myanmar to enhance connectivity trade primarily through Northeast. It involves multimodal transport system, Kolkata to Sitwe, from Kaladan River, then by road to Mizoram. The project connects eastern Indian port of Kolkata with Sitwe port of Myanmar by sea. Then you use a waterway from Kaladan River to connect to Paletwa, Chin state of Myanmar. And from Chin state, because Chin state neighbors Mizoram. So you connect to Mizoram, and from Mizoram, well, the entire Northeast is open to you. Clear? So this project is of strategic importance for India because through this we can bypass Bangladesh. All right? And currently, well, Bangladesh is pretty hostile to us, so it's important. Okay then. With that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But, like I say this always, it will add more value if you revise this lecture as well. So please do not forget to revise it, and I'll see you next time with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.